Surat Shabd Yoga. If you don't know what Surat Shabd Yoga is, or if you haven't heard of it, look it up. Type it in, research it, do your research, look up Surat Shabd Yoga. This is a very elite type of meditation in the Sant Mat tradition, and this is a method of meditation I actually make the effort to do every day. And it's also known as other names too besides Surat Shabd Yoga. It's also known as Sahaj Yoga, aka the path of light and sound, or the yoga of the sound current, among other titles. And the way that I do this is by focusing on the third eye in a trance state of mind. So the way I would describe my experience of it is that there's a sort of like high-pitched ringing sound that you'll begin to pick up on within the pineal gland. It's a sound vibration. It's not heard with the ears, it's heard within, not with the outer ears. So it's like a sound current that your third eye is actually always hearing, but you can become consciously aware of it by zooming your lower eyes into the third eye, aka the pineal gland. So it's important to be in a sort of trance state of mind and to be in a state of extreme body relaxation. And also, like, your eyeballs might hurt at first for a moment when you begin to like focus on the center forehead pineal gland area. And so you want to zoom the eyeballs into the center pineal gland area. And it'll actually take your consciousness into what is known as the Buddha realm or the soul plane, which is above the causal plane, which is above the astral plane. You may even experience shapes and forms that you would never experience in the physical. And this is also what the Necronomicon is about. It's like shapes and forms that are beyond the physical earthly plane. And so, to give a little explanation, introduction to it, the name Surat Shabd Yoga is derived from the Sanskrit words meaning attention or face that is an outward expression of the soul. Shabd or Shabda has multiple meanings, including sacred song, word, voice, hymn, verse, or sound current, audible life stream, and the essence of the absolute supreme being. And the word yoga means union or a yoke to something. So Surat Shabd Yoga involves reuniting in stages with what is called the essence of the absolute supreme being, also known as the Shabd or the word. In the beginning there was the word, right? So this kind of meditation is a means of escaping the matrix while we are here in the lower level 3D material world. So, you have to experience detachment from the ego, because it's important to understand that your higher self is always already there all the time. So the goal is to experience detachment from the human ego, which often falsely believes itself to be only here in the limited lower 3D material world, right? So now, if you study and become acquainted with such teachings as plain esotericism, which can be found in shamanic teachings of meditation and in Neoplatonism it's called, as well as several other schools of thought on this topic, you'll become familiar with the basic realms that are above the physical. So, you got the physical, which is the ego realm, Here's a general understanding of this, although it varies depending on what school of thought you're going by, right? So it's like this. First, there's the physical plane where the ego is known to dwell in the body, and then above the physical plane is the astral plane, and then above the astral is the causal plane, and then above the causal is the mental plane, and then above the mental is what some refer to as the soul plane or the Buddha plane, etc. And there's different interpretations and various versions of these realms. I'm just showing some general graphs here. And not all of them necessarily agree with each other, as you can see. So, some may say the mental plane is beneath the astral. Some may say that the mental is above the causal. Some list 5 stages of realms. Some may list 6 or 7 realms, or 8 planes, 8 realms, 9, and so forth. But you get the general idea, So it's not necessarily agreed upon the stages of the realms, but there's different beliefs in this. You do your research on it. Just type in plain esotericism. You learn about the different planes. But it basically goes like this. It starts with the physical. Then there's the astral plane, then there's the causal plane, then there's the mental plane, and so forth and above. Right now, if you're interested in practicing Surat Shabd Yoga, if you're going to start taking this up, I might recommend starting with this book right here. This is one of the best books there is for beginners on this topic. Astral Dynamics by Robert Bruce. this is a good place to start because it breaks down on simple terms that most readers can easily understand how to get into the astral realm. And so that's kind of like a first step before you travel up to the higher realms, because the astral's right above the physical. So it's a good place to start. So I definitely recommend this book for beginners, Astral Dynamics by Robert Bruce. Right, a must read for those who are interested in this topic. On an elementary level, it'll tell you how to get into the astral realm, how to astral project. Then once you master astral projection, you can then study other types of meditations which go beyond the astral plane. There's even levels that are above and beyond what is referred to as the divine sound current. There's even levels that go higher and above and beyond what is known as the Buddha plane. I'm talking about above and beyond what is known as the Word. And that's getting into the science of melanin and dark energy, and that's maybe a topic for another video. But here's why meditation is so important. There's reasons why it's crucial to perfect the ability to astral project and ascend to these higher levels, because it's a key factor in avoiding reincarnation. Right? Meditation is one of the necessary ingredients, among others, in what you'll need to do to build your own reality, as opposed to reincarnating after passing away from this realm of reality. So it's like, meditation is important because it has to do with the direction you focus your consciousness in, and this ties into the Isis Thesis, which I'm going to talk about here. So after death of the body, after physically dying, one can either reincarnate or one can build their own reality, right? So instead of reincarnate, instead of be recycled and reborn right back here into another body, you can actually build your own realms of reality. Instead of reincarnate, you can actually construct your own sound current, right? Instead of reincarnate, you can actually create your own divine sound, your own soul realm, create your own realms. And meditation is very necessary. It's very important for this, right? So, you don't want to be recycled and be born right back here again. So you can actually create your own realms with your own light from your own melanin, right? You can actually create your own original word, your own divine sound current. And the knowledge on how to do this is encoded in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, also known as the Egyptian Book of Coming Forth by Day, right? So this knowledge is very well decoded in this book here called the Isis Thesis by Judy K. King, a study decoding 870 ancient Egyptian signs, right? So this is the best book I know of that decodes the pyramid text and the coffin text and the Egyptian Book of the Dead as far as the instructions on what to do to not reincarnate. The Isis Thesis by Judy K. King, it decodes the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians on how to avoid reincarnation, right? And also this other book by the same author titled Balls of Fire, A Science of Life and Death. These books will clarify and break down the ancient instructions, right? The Isis Thesis decodes the Egyptian instructions, the ancient Kemetic instructions on what to do in death, on the direction where to go, and why. You'll understand when you understand this knowledge why meditation is so important, right? This is where this knowledge comes from, right? How does one achieve such ascension to avoid reincarnation? These are the people who hold the answer to that question, the ancient Egyptians, the Kemites. These are the original bloodlines who do not come from Adam, right? So the ancient Egyptians, they're not a product of the demiurge. They're not from the Adamic bloodline, the ancient pharaohs. Right? The ancient Egyptians are not descendants of Adam, who was Yahweh's genetically engineered or grafted people, right? So the supreme source of knowledge on how to not reincarnate, how to actually become God, is encoded in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, including the pyramid text, coffin text. You got to go to ancient Chem. That's where the source is at, right? So this is the best source I know for how to not reincarnate. And it ties into why mastering astral projection and going above that is very important, and what you need to do in meditation, and how Surat Shabd yoga can be used for this purpose. Because when you understand how the Isis Thesis decodes the ancient Egyptian text, it'll become more clear what you need to do in meditation to direct your consciousness and how it affects yourself, everything within, everything is, all right, so it's like, how do I explain this? Like, your soul is like one piece of the divine ocean, right? So think of your soul as that one drop of water from that ocean that is the soul plane, right? So the way this works, the way to not reincarnate after death of the body, the way to prevent your drop of divine water from being reused in the matrix again, the way to actually become your own word, your own sound current, is with the transfer of your DNA code in the lytic cell cycle of bacteriophage lambda that takes place after the decomposition of the flesh after physical decay. Right? I know this sounds complicated, but it's a lot to explain. I won't be able to fit it into this video. If this lytic cell cycle does not occur after the decomposition of flesh, then you will be recycled right back here. You will reincarnate. The ancient Egyptians were very aware of this. DNA is light. Light is information. Your soul is actually in your DNA code, which is why you only reincarnate through bloodlines or through your ancestors to your descendants. It's important to know that only about 3% of the DNA utilizes protein to make up the physical body. Approximately 97% of the DNA serves no purpose that is known to modern science, and so they refer to it as junk DNA. But it's really not junk DNA. They don't even understand what it is. So the way you avoid reincarnation has to do with the parity time reversal, time parity reversal, which has to do with quantum black hole mechanics, right? Cosmic black holes in outer space are actually protein funnels that reverse time. And if you take this path of avoiding reincarnation, your genes, of course, will still get passed on to your offspring and to your descendants. Like, I don't want this to get too confusing or anything, but it's like, how do I put this in this perspective? It's like, when we say avoiding reincarnation here, we mean that your particular DNA code is taken out of this whole universal Chronos Cal Neuron domain, this whole demiurge lower level 3D matrix here. Your DNA code goes somewhere else. It's a lot to explain. It's hard to explain. I have to put it in a much more lengthy video, and I'm trying to keep this brief. So it's like your particular DNA code actually becomes a whole other domain of its own. So, in the ancient hieroglyphics, the goddess Isis is the first hero of the story because Isis reassembles Osiris's severed body parts after Osiris has been cut up into pieces and scattered all around by his brother Set. After putting Osiris's body parts back together, Isis impregnates herself with his seed and gives birth to their son Horus, Heru, who then becomes the main hero, who is Christ. Horus is Christ because Horus avenges his father Osiris, right? So Isis is a representation of lactose energy metabolism because lactose, being milk, is something that is from the feminine. The hieroglyphics say Isis provides milk for the dead king. The lactose nutrient medium is necessary for the lysis-crow protein process in the host cell, which is then infused with the DNA of the phage vector of bacteriophage lambda. So the battle between Horus and Seth is lysogeny C1 protein, which is Seth, versus lysis-crow protein, which is Horus. This takes place after flesh decay. Right, so the battle takes place in the host cell and determines whether or not Osiris's body parts will be reassembled and resurrected as Horus. This is a quantum reassembling of you as the DNA code within the lambda phage infecting a host cell after the flesh dies, after physical decay. Horus versus Seth. Right, so we're talking about a symbolic, allegorical story of whether or not you reincarnate or actually become God. Build your own reality, right? So Set symbolizes remaining in the 3D material world. So Set is the Saturn or demiurge energy, remaining in the physical ego. Horus symbolizes ascension to godhood. And so this is why they mummified the pharaohs, as explained in the book Balls of Fire. The common people of ancient Egypt weren't given this knowledge. They were just expected to reincarnate. So they weren't given the knowledge that was hoarded by the royalty of the path to ascension. But today we're living in the great day of Yama Kayama. Today's the day of judgment when all knowledge is exposed. So nothing is hidden now. It's all in plain sight. The royal bloodlines can't hide this stuff like they used to. So after physical decay, the bacteriophage lambda vector becomes the microscopic spaceship that ferries the DNA of the deceased and utilizes quantum black hole mechanics via protein folding funneling, time parity reversal, and the Coriolis effect of the Earth's gravitational field, which takes your genetic code, the information of your consciousness, beyond the beginning of this universe, beyond the so-called Big Bang, to where your DNA code actually becomes a Big Bang of its own, so to speak. The folding of lambda C1 protein to its native conformation results in prokaryotic to eukaryotic evolution of Homo sapiens sapiens trapped in the Earth system. That is Set. Whereas the folding of lambda Cro protein results in recombinant species referred to as Homo sapiens lambda, which reverses time, escaping from the Earth system to the early universe, which is Horus, Heru. The word Heru is hero, which is Christ. It's the same archetype. But anyway, we're talking about the archetype, the allegorical story of Christ versus the devil, Horus versus Seth, which is Ascension versus reincarnation, right? Ascension has to conquer reincarnation. So reincarnation is actually hell, right? To have to repeat this again, to go to work every day, pay bills every day. So Homo sapiens sapiens is humanity. So the goal is to no longer be human, to escape the Earth cycle of reincarnation, which is the demiurge's creation. So Set represents returning to humanity. Horus represents escaping the Earth cycle of humanity. Right? This is all in the Isis Thesis. It's explained and broke down. As above, so below. The competition between Lysis, Horus, and lysogeny, Set, translates to the release of energy as radiation, chemoluminescence, or heat, photosynthesis in the universe. So we can say, let's just, I'm just guesstimating, approximately 4 billion years ago, at the beginning of this universe, the process of lambda lysogeny, resulting from C1 protein production, activated the transition to eukaryotic development and photosynthesis, which is humanism. This whole universal Chronos Kal Naranjan domain, this whole demiurge existence that we're in. Prior to that time, the original lambda structure, as signified by Cro protein control and chemoluminescence, was imprinted on this universe. The horizontal gene transfer of the deceased on the Egyptian path to the stars is referred to as lambda genesis. Ancient Egyptian science not only supports that information can escape from protein folding funnel landscapes of a black hole, but it also reinforces string theory concepts such as T-duality and supersymmetry. So, in order to obtain this transfiguration, the dead mummified pharaoh must follow specific directions, right? Using the earth and stars as guides. So, following the instructions of the funerary text, which is in the pyramid text and the coffin text and the book of the dead, the book of coming forth by day, the dead pharaoh joins the sun god Ra's ferry boat for the voyage through the netherworld, also called the Duat, which is the Earth's magnetic field. It's explained in the Isis Thesis, right? So Isis, she's the lady of provisions. That's Mama. She's the divine feminine, also known by many other names. And Thoth, the scribe of the gods, assist the pharaoh in this journey, right? They help the pharaoh along the path. So they're going to help you not reincarnate. You're the pharaoh. You're the king. Horus overcomes Set and the rivals are united. This results in the restoration of the Eye of Horus and the risen Osiris, along with the birth of the king's new form, which is nourished, clothed, and rising in the east like a bright morning star, right? The risen king is now the great Word. In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is explaining a chemical reaction played out on a quantum stage. So right here, like the Isis Thesis, page 67 says, the pharaohs believed that life came from death, or that the deceased is equipped because of the vulture. That's in coffin text number 365. The deceased must awake because he has not died. Coffin text numbers 48, 51, 53, and 287. And will not die again because he has power over the heavens' winds. Coffin text number 83. Fair paths open for the deceased. Coffin text number 10. Thus, the dynamics of the solar wind play a crucial role. This is where the Coriolis effect comes into play, right? It has to do with the Earth's magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field plays an important role regarding whether or not you reincarnate because of time parity reversal. But the code has to be activated in your DNA. And it's a lot to explain, but it makes perfect sense when you read this book, the Isis Thesis, and put it all into perspective, right? So it's like, this is the path of the ancient Egyptians in dodging reincarnation. And this is why meditation is important. Meditation is very important because it has to do with the direction that you direct your consciousness in, right? And this is why reincarnate is exactly what most people do after they physically die, because they don't have this knowledge. So I put some links in the description with further information on the Isis Thesis for those who are interested, because I didn't cover the instructions on what to actually do in this video to activate the lytic C1 cell cycle of your DNA to avoid reincarnation. And meditation is a big part of it. So if you want these instructions of what to do to actually avoid reincarnation, which I did not cover in this video, click the links below or get yourself a copy of the book, the Isis Thesis. I know a lot of this regarding the Isis Thesis is crammed into this short video and may be difficult to grasp, with just the little bit that I spoke on in this video. So if you actually want to know what to do to avoid reincarnation, which I did not actually talk about in this video, click the links in the description below. Learn how to practice certain meditation techniques which affect the melanin in your DNA, your deoxyribonucleic acid, your DNA. Read the Isis Thesis. Practice Surat Shabd yoga. Peace.